NathanIvey.com. Mr. Ivey know the show must go on. And for Cincinnati, man, I put on. Tunes made another flame beat for me to cook on. Raised arms, close fists, yeah, too strong. Team AI, chop it up at the chop shop. Top notch with the king flow, the hot shot. Cop squats in, listen to the real, jumping like hopscotch. Nobody harder than, oh, no, think not. Not only citywide, but nationwide. Superlatives, keep it locked like them Haitian guys. Put the truth in the airwaves, we talk about it. Brand new like the templates, let's be about it. Who got the info by the AM? Jono be the rapper, got them jamming when they play him. Staying in my lane, they ain't gotta okay him. Who the host with the scoop? Yeah, they gon' say him. Ivy, so superlative like a bag of Grippos. Show you where the Brits at, Cincinnati Reds at. One time where my people at. Team NI where my people at. It's the 5-1-3, yeah, you know the flow. What's the word, Nate? Let them know the show. One time where my people at. Team NI where my people at. Good
morning, everybody. Welcome back. Nate Ivey with you in the air chair. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the podcast world, broadcasting live from a secret location somewhere in the greater Cincinnati area. Cannot tell you, I've got to protect the innocent. Good morning to you. Welcome back. Here I am. Here we are. Let's do it. Yeah, it's pretty, well, let's just say it's cold outside. Put it that way. Put it mildly. So if you got that remote starter, which is so convenient these days, how did we survive without remote starters for your cars? You had to actually go out there and sit in the cold car. I mean, that's like prehistoric, right? Hooray, hooray for advancements in science. On today's show, I want to share some very biased opinions. I make no bones about it. I'm biased, but fair. I'm extremely biased on some topics, and I just can't be budged on it, I don't think. And after many years of formulating opinions, I am what I am. It is what it is. But I want to share with you some very sharp views on particular topics this morning. And then coming up at 9 a.m. this morning, and let me make sure I do my due diligence. We are scheduled to speak with the new president of the Cincinnati Sentinels. And her name is Captain Danita Pettis. She's scheduled to give us a call this morning. And I want to make sure that she has all of the necessary, that she has all of the information she needs so she can give us a call this morning. She might do a Zoom style. I don't know if she's the first woman to lead the Sentinels. I don't know if she's the first black woman to lead the Sentinels. I think that she's the highest ranking female and the highest ranking black female in the Cincinnati Police Department, but we'll talk with her. And, you know, we had some fun not with her, but a situation that involved her a few years back with Reynolds. Remember Reynolds? That's hilarious. Every time I think about it, it just makes me chuckle for whatever reason. I'm odd. I got an odd sense of humor. But she's scheduled to give us a Zoom style call this morning at 9 a.m. So we'll get a sense of the direction she's going to take with the Sentinels. What are the Sentinels? What do they mean? What's their impact? What's she going to do differently? Why she want the job? All those questions. And maybe we can get her to talk a little bit about that. I don't know. She may not want to. But we'll talk about that. It's coming up at 9 a.m. Heavily focused on what happens here locally. But we talk about everything on this show. We talk about everything. Now, as you can tell, I am a black man, right? So I'm going to have a black male point of view on a lot of topics that you might find, I don't know what you might find it. I'll just put it out there just in case you didn't know. Like, is that a brother? He is a brother. This is really happening. For real. Good morning to you. Shout out to my people on TuneIn and shout out to my people on Spreaker Network. I appreciate you. The people on the audio side of things. This show is a video show every day now. You can watch this on YouTube or Facebook. Good morning to you. What's up, Don? Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here, everybody. Appreciate you. I want to talk about, I'm feeling much better, man. Yeah. I was down for about a week, and I just took some time to make sure I came all the way back. And to be honest with you, at the time, I didn't like it. I felt like I was cheating the audience. I wanted to get back because there was those last couple days I felt like maybe I could. But in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't because it just helped my recovery all the more, right? When you're doing this kind of thing, you put a lot into it. It's like 24 hours a day, quite honestly. Show prep is 24 hours a day for me. It's been that way for the last 15, 20 years. So, yeah, I didn't like it because, it's not like, like with a commercial radio station where since I'm doing this at home, it's not like I can just have somebody come in here and do the show for me, right? It's me or nothing. It's all or nothing. So there's some good with that as well. But I'm here feeling great and glad to be with you. And again, at 9 a.m. this morning, we're scheduled to get a Zoom style call from Captain Danita Pettis. This will be the first time we're interviewing her. I wanted to talk with her a while ago, but she has some legal ish going on. Handle the business first, then we'll get back to that. Betting Public Sports Show writes, I'm here to talk Barry Bonds, a goddamn travesty. And I agree 100%. Barry Bonds did not make the Hall of Fame ballot. As I understand the way it works, and then correct me if I'm wrong on this, fam, you might have a better angle on it than I, but you've got a finite amount of years that you can be selected by the writers. And this was his final year to be selected by the writers into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. It's not over for Barry Bonds because there's like a committee of former players, I believe, and then they get a chance to decide upon these players. And I'm not sure if there's a finite amount of time as well. But Barry Bonds is what was one of the most prolific Major League Baseball players ever. And he never tested positive for steroids. I know there were books written about him and testimony and court documents and all this kind of stuff, but he never tested positive for steroids. But yet it seems as if the sports writers have decided that in their minds, he was dirty, that he was taking PEDs. Remember performing enhancing drugs? Remember all of this? And therefore, they have locked out one of the greatest baseball players of all time. I personally believe that there's another part of the story. If you know anything about Barry Bonds was not only active with the stick, he was active with that mouth. He ran his mouth. He talked about the ownership. He talked about racism. He talked about the elitism from the owner's box. He talked about a lot of the problems that Major League Baseball had. He was not quiet. And America doesn't always view black men that breathe fire that way. They don't, they don't always view that way. You know what I'm saying? If you spit fire and you challenge the status quo and you talk about racism, a lot of people look down on that. And if they have a chance to get back at you, then that's what they'll do. And I kind of feel like that's what's happening with Barry Bonds. I'll say it again. Barry Bonds is not Roger Clemens. Barry Bonds is not, what was the dude who was St. Louis? What was the guy's name? He's not any of those guys. He should be looked upon as an individual. He's not Pete Rose. We can go back and forth about whether Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame or not. I don't know. But to not have Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, to me, is a travesty. And I think it has on some levels to do with the fact that he rubbed a lot of the sports writers the wrong way when he was a player. I got some quotes prepared for you. I'll share with you. He spoke his mind. He spoke his mind. And it's always been interesting that year after year after year that he doesn't make consideration for the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, don't you need to have a dirty test first? Yeah, I know that there was a book written about him and Balco, and there were some allegedly court documents that said this and said that, but you don't have a test. You never tested dirty. So that's like, just think about that. I mean, that's like, here you're a major league or you're a big time athlete for one of these big time sports, conglomerates, right? And they push you out because they say that you were taking drugs, but you never tested positive for drugs. I don't care what a trainer says. Trainers can say, people can be manipulated to say anything. If we don't have a smoking gun, if you don't admit it yourself, if it's not incontrovertible, then how do you bar you? And again, for me, I think it was because that he was so active with his brain. and challenging the status quo of Major League Baseball. That's just me, though. We can get Mark McGwire, right? He ain't no damn Mark McGwire. Remember when Roger Clemens and Mark McGwire went to Congress and made a damn fool of themselves? Well, see, what happened was, yeah, it was a needle. Yeah, but I plead the fifth. I plead the. Remember this? It was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. That never happened with Barry Bonds. So, I just, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. Everybody's watching the Bengals, and you know why I'm happy about the Bengals? I'm happy about the Bengals. Sammy Sosa, another one. The number one reason why I'm happy is two reasons why I'm happy about the Bengals right now, because I still have problems with the NFL. But the two reasons why I'm happy about the Bengals is, number one, all for the city, for my people, for the city, my hometown, and then for the Black-owned brand. Those are the two reasons why. I don't have any connections with those brothers. I don't know them at all. I'm just sitting where I'm sitting. But I'm happy that I think that they're going to rise, with the success of the Bengals. I like that. I love to see my people doing well. And then I'm happy for the city. But I still have a problem with the NFL. Like right now, there's this big conversation with the NFL about why we don't have enough black coaches. And I don't know, as I was thinking about today's show yesterday, actually, I just, some of this stuff is just so obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like we get caught in these cycles and these patterns, these smart, dumb patterns. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. The reason why there's a lack of black coaches in the NFL and will remain a concern is because we don't have black ownership in the NFL, period. That's it, period. And until and if that happens, there's going to continue to be a lack of black leadership. Now, you got a few black GMs out there. Then you got more black general managers than you got coaches. But that's what it comes down to, period. It ain't rocket science. They keep recycling the same conversation over and over again. Speaking of recycled conversations, I mean, here we go again as we go into another midterm election. Black people, black voters in general, we keep having the same conversation. Let me tell you what's more than likely going to happen. The Democrats are going to lose seats. That's what's going to happen. This happens every midterm election. Since damn near my whole adult lifetime, this ain't rocket science. This happens every midterm election. This happened with Barack Obama. It's going to happen with Joe Biden. Same thing over and over again. Like, Barack Obama got elected and people thought that they thought that reparations was right around the corner. He was going to change everything overnight. Unrealistic expectations. And then just a lack of political savvy, knowledge on like the way the U.S. Congress actually works. And I hear people saying this about Joe Biden, and I don't want to be in a position where I come across like I'm defending Joe Biden, because I'm not. I'm defending common sense. I don't care what Joe Biden thinks. It's going to be very difficult to get major legislation past the Senate, period. And it's going to be nearly impossible to pass any changes to the filibuster, period. Start there, then have other conversations. I'll say it again. I'm urging black voters and voters in general to keep your eye on the national. It matters, but focus locally in your city, in your county, in your home state. Focus there, okay? Focus there. We live in Ohio. We talking about the damn Congress. What are we going to do about the gridlock and the Republican majority in Ohio? That's where our focus needs to be. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about a 10, 15, 20-year plan. Nothing's going to happen overnight. Ohio is a red state. If you live in Ohio, that's your biggest problem, not Congress. I mean, I'm not saying take your eye off the ball, but that's your biggest problem. If you live in a state that's Republican controlled, that's your biggest issue. Start right there. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to fault the Democrats on anything, we should be faulting them on their lack of putting things in place in these particular states. Like, what are the Democrats going to do in Ohio? Because whatever they're going to do, it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years. You're talking about long game. It ain't going to be one election cycle, 2 election cycles, 3 election cycles. It's going to take a long time to win back the hearts and minds of Ohioans. That's where we are. But here we go again. I'm looking at new black media, and I'm looking at the media, and they're talking about the poll numbers. I know he's obsessed with the poll numbers. Personally, I kind of feel like those poll numbers are completely overrated because, and again, this is another thing that we need to be real about. We are living in remarkable times. I was telling a friend of mine, and this person has a job at a nonprofit, and they're dealing with a lot of the COVID situation, the CARES money, and all that kind of stuff. And I keep telling this person, like, look, what you're doing right now, nobody has ever had to deal with before. We have never dealt with this before, ever, in our lifetimes. We have never dealt with a global pandemic, and we're dealing with multiple variants and isolation, omnipresent fear of infection or death, a serious health crisis. We ain't never dealt with this before. We are living in remarkable times. Everybody is affected by this, not just the children, not just the school-age children, not just the elderly, not just the seniors. Everybody. I'm affected by it. You're affected by it on some levels. We are living in remarkable times. Remarkable times. And that's got to be affecting the way people are responding to some of these polls. And I never get called for a poll. Who they calling? So when I hear people talk about these poll numbers, I know Drop is obsessed with this shit. I'm like, oh, here we go again. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm all about? Results. Final results. But here we go again, people. Here we go again. It's a sick, vicious cycle. And I'm not here. I don't know how we get out of that on the national level. That's why I say let's focus on our city councils, on our county commission boards, on our state representatives, our state senators. Let's focus on home where we may have more control. Because what am I supposed to do about Christian cinema in Cincinnati? I can't do nothing about that. What can you do about that? Nothing. She all the way in Arizona. What can I do about Joe Manchin in West Virginia? I'm in Ohio. I don't have no control over that whatsoever. So rather than get all depressed about it and beat myself up, what I'm urging people to do is focus at home. Focus on the next city council election. Focus on the next county commissioner's election. Focus on these state reps. Focus on the governor. That's what matters. Do you detect any lies? I don't think so. I think I'm on point with this. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we can bellyache and bemoan and the Joy Floyd policing act is not going to get passed. It ain't going to happen. And don't even bring up the R word. Don't you bring it up. Don't you say it. Don't say it. Do not use the R word. I'm not saying, don't you use it. Reparations, that is DOA. That ain't happening. These mofos can't even agree on protecting voting rights. You think they're in a place to talk about reparations? It ain't happening, period. And it's not because there's not people in Congress who know that what needs to happen. They ain't got the numbers, period. Point blank, that's it. And I'll say it again, if you're somebody that really is like all about reparations, and who isn't, right? Starts at home. It starts with that next, state rep, state senator, rep from Congress, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th congressional district, governor. Starts right there. I think it starts locally. All this focus on what's happening on the national level, I'm not sure we should take our eyes off of it. I'm just saying, like, let's put that in its proper place and let's deal with home first. That's what we should be doing as voters. That's what I'm telling black voters. Focus on home. Focus on your city policies, your county policies, your state policies, especially if you live in a red state, as we do in here in the state of Ohio. But here we go again, folks. Here we go again. I can already tell you. Let me look into my crystal ball. Oh, I see it. The Democrats are going to lose seats. Wow. I'm political prognostication, right? It happens every time. You got the party in power. And typically when people say party in power, they mean who's in the White House. Typically, the opposing party picks up seats. That's the way it is. And here we go again. Here we go again, black folks. We set Barack Obama up for failure. And by we, I mean those individuals that didn't vote in the midterm elections because they were so dissatisfied. Why is he working on health care? He's supposed to be getting us reparations. Huh? What? What? And so they sit out the midterm election, and what happens? Barack Obama's surrounded by sharks. Now it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because he can't get enough done to satisfy what voters think they want. So the voters get dissatisfied and they say, our votes don't matter. And that's exactly the plot. That's exactly the plot. That's exactly the plot. They did the same thing with Hillary Clinton with black voters. People all in their emotions. Mofos run around playing videos from the 90s when she talking about we got to bring them to heel. I don't care about what she said in the 90s. I'm trying to stop this fool from getting to the White House. But it worked like a charm, didn't it? I'm going to say this again. When you are overly emotional, you are pliable. You're easily manipulated. And the easiest way to manipulate somebody is not to try to convince them against something that they already believe. That's nearly impossible. You push them in a direction they're already leaning. Oh, you suspicious about the government? Oh, I'm going to give you you should be suspicious about the government. Look at what they said, right? And they push some black voters straight over the edge, arguing with people about whether your vote matters or not. I'm done with all that nonsense. That's why I call them the smart dumb cats. Intelligent people, but got outsmarted using your own emotion against you. And the same thing's about to happen again with Joe Biden. It's all over. So he ain't did enough. I told you he lied to us. Huh? He lied. Okay. Huh? What? Just so unsophisticated. I mean, so unsophisticated. Some of this analysis and some of the things I hear people saying, I'm like, wow, here we go again. We's our own worst enemy. They just, somebody called, I think it was Black Russia. He called last week and said the absolute dumbest thing that I've heard a black man say in a minute. And he said something like, we was talking about voting rights and whether it was necessary or not. He completely missed the point. He was like, yeah, the Democrats are just trying to get black people all emotional. Meanwhile, you got Republican-led state legislatures in 17 states that have passed laws. They got a website. It's a whole nonprofit called the Brennan Center. And essentially what they do is they run a lot of analysis on various things dealing with politics. And they did an analysis in general. You can read about it. The BrennanCenter.org. They did an analysis on the impact of some of these new voter rights bills, right? And what do you think they found? That it is designed and that the impact will be, it will make it more difficult for some people to vote, i.e., in a lot of cases, it's targeted at black people, but in general, it's targeted at people that Republicans think are more likely to vote Democrat over Republican. And this black man called into this show talking about, oh, it's just a plot to make black people feel something. What? This is the world we live in, and I just can't let you get down like that. I can't let people go out like that. I got to be real with you. It's just the craziest stuff I've ever heard in my entire life. It's crazy talk. These unrealistic expectations, like we expect Kamala Harris to single-handedly change the world. Like she's supposed to do all of this. Meanwhile, what are you doing? See, that's the kind of person I am. I'm less about what they're doing. And I think the real question should be, as we look at ourselves in the mirror, what are you going to do in 2022? That's the real question. Are you going to join a campaign? Are you going to contribute to a campaign? Are you going there's got to be somebody out there that you agree with. Like, how far are you going to go to push the needle, as opposed to always pushing the buck on somebody else and then whining and belly aching because you don't get what you thought you were supposed to get? And I'm here to tell you, it ain't going to happen. It ain't gonna happen. And there's always an ounce of truth in the game. In the BS game, there's always some truth. So there's a lot of truth to the fact that the Democrats have not delivered per the loyalty that black voters have given them. Absolutely true, 100%. Nobody's going to doubt that. No, anybody that argues against that is a damn fool. Now, we all know that to be true. And that's how they get you. There's always some truth in the game, in the hustle, right? It's a con game, right? It's always the truth. So you take that element of truth and they run with it. They be running like O.J. Simpson from the loft. He killed them white folks. You know what I'm saying? Because he did it. You know he did it. Good morning to you. 513-873-7134. If you like to share your thoughts this morning, what do I need to do here? Give me 1 second. I got to do something here because I want to make sure that our guest gets into the show. It's very, very important to me. I want to make sure I send this to her so that she has no problems giving us a call this morning. I definitely want to hear her thoughts. I'm very curious about what she is going to do. Hold on 1 second. I like to do these things live on the air. All right. I think I got that. Okay, maybe I didn't get that. Oh boy. Hold, give me 1 second here. Let's see. Okay. Now. Yeah, we good. All right, great. So we're scheduled to speak with Captain Danita Pettis on the show today. She is the new president of the Sentinels. So I'm very curious to see what she's going to do. I just received another. I get 2 or 3 of these every single week. Non-close contact. Here we go again. Non-close contact. Meaning that my daughter had a non-close contact with COVID. Yeah, they ain't taking COVID seriously in the schools no more. You know it and I know it. Because if they were, they'd be testing and doing temperatures every single day. But that's too much of a hassle, right? Good morning to you. All change is local, Dan. I agree with you. Start with the local. Yeah, there's gridlock in Congress, but let's not get caught up with that. Let's not feel like we can't get anything done. Yeah, there might be gridlock in Washington, but that doesn't mean you can't make moves locally. That doesn't mean that you can't come up with some policy ideas and present them to the new city council. What's stopping you? Doesn't mean that you can't reach out to your Hamilton County commissioner and present some ideas. What's stopping you? You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean that we can't start the plan right now. Again, it ain't going to be easy. It's going to be 10, 15, 20 years in the making to take back Ohio. You know what I'm saying? It's like damn if you do, damn if you don't, kind of. But I don't want people to feel as if there's no place to go. There's a lot you can do. Chris writes, good morning. Good morning to you, Chris. Anthony writes, morning, Chop Shop. Good morning, Anthony. Jerome writes, good morning. Nate and the Choppers, good morning to you. Brenda writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Pat writes, good morning. Tanika's in the house. Good morning to you. Hey, David, good to see you. Cass is in the house. Good to see you as well. Brenda's watching. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you for all the shares. We hit like 60 shares. Oh, that is such a blessing. Thank you so much. This little show, we like the little engine that could. And our little network, we ain't going nowhere. We just growing and growing and growing. Kush writes, good morning. Also, if you are interested, we're starting an investment club. This is really exciting. I'm excited about this. Like, cause I'll be honest with you, I'm out of my depth on this one. And if you are interested in being a part of our investment club, and again, what I'm asking people to do is to email me. And in the subject line, just put investment. Type in investments. You can email me. This is my personal email address. I'm going to put this on the screen. If you're interested, at this point, I'm just compiling names because at some point I'll reach out to you. So not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I'm scheduled to meet with a CPA to begin that process. I won't be making the investments because that's not what I do. That's not me. I'm going to contact with a lawyer to draw everything up legally so you can look at it and decide if you want to be involved with it. And then also a CPA to make the recommendations for the investments and our strategy. And I'll be sort of like just a manager, I guess, if that's even necessary. And as I said, I mean, I think when you're doing some things, there's just a certain way you should do them. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I mean, I've gotten about 20 people have reached out to me already via email. And if you're interested, just hit me with an email and put investment in the subject line. And that way that I can put it in a good little, easy to put it in a file on my Gmail account. And I can reach out to you when necessary. But not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I'm going to have a meeting with a CPA and begin that process. And as things unfold, I'll present it to the group, and we'll take it from there. I don't know what this looks like. I don't know. I don't have any dollar amounts at this point. I just thought it was a good idea. People said they want to do it. I'm like, well, shit, let's do it then. Let's do it. And that's what we're going to do. So something new for the show. And who knows? Like, again, I mean, had we started this 5 years ago, we might have 200,000-300,000. You know what I'm saying? Buy us one of these buildings in the city collectively as a group. Why not? Why not? Why can't it happen? You know what I'm saying? What's the Bengals motto? Why not us? Why not us? Why can't it happen? You certainly can. Certainly can. So if you're interested, I'll leave that up. And I'll be in contact with you. By responding to this email, in no way is that any kind of contract. You're not obligated to anything. That's just saying, Nate, I want to hear more. Simple as that. Kush writes, good morning, Nathan Ivey Choppers. Good morning to you. Glenn's in the house. He writes, free Chris Matthews. Absolutely do not free Chris Matthews. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Chris Matthews was past his prime, Glenn. I know that's what your dude and all. He was past his prime, spitting on the damn television screen. His analysis was no longer sharp. And it is what it is. It is what it is. But let me talk about Barry Bonds. So Barry Bonds misses the Hall of Fame in his final year to be selected by the baseball writers. He's got another shot next year, and I don't know all the details if that means he'll have more shots. But if you have a finite amount of times to be considered to be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, it ain't for the rest of your life. And what's interesting is that, what's the brother's name? Ortiz played for the Red Sox. He made it into the Hall of Fame on his first time. David Ortiz. Even though there was some talk about him being like, you know, having PEDs and things like that. There was some rumors swirling around and things like that. Sammy Sosa didn't make it. Roger Clemens didn't make it. And neither did Barry Bonds. And to be formally inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And again, you know, for anybody out there like, yeah, he don't deserve it. I want you to send me a link that shows any evidence that Barry Bonds has ever tested positive for PEDs. And we'll be waiting a long time because that evidence does not exist. Doesn't exist. And you know, it is what it is. Like I told you, I'll give you my theory again. My theory is because it was the kind of man that Barry Bonds was. Barry Bonds was very vocal. He was critical about the oligarchy system, the ownership system, the way that minority players were treated. He was very vocal about that while he was playing. He was not a friend to the reporters. He used to cut the reporters down. And so because of his personality, I think that you know how it is, man. It's just like on a job. Like if the bosses don't like you and they want to get rid of you, then any little thing, they'll use that to get rid of you. And I think that's what they're doing with Barry Bonds. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about. If the bosses don't like you, they just sit back and wait for you to slip on a banana peel. And then they'll be like, oh, we got you. Well, I hear you, but we were thinking about restructuring anyway. You know, they hit you with that nonsense. And I think that's what happened with Barry Bonds. I think happy for Papi Ortiz, I guess. I'm not the biggest Major League Baseball fan in the world. But I know the game. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's a travesty. And I don't know if it's racially motivated. I don't know if it's racially motivated or if it's a personality type of thing. Because sometimes you can have a personality that kind of rubs people the wrong way, and then once they get rubbed the wrong way, they don't like you no more, right? And then once they don't like you no more, it's like, what else can you do? And what else can you do? And I think that's what happened with Barry Bonds. That's just my opinion. Good morning to you. Let's just say I got biased opinions on everything this morning. Very biased opinions. I'm a very biased individual. All right. Hold on. Let me send this text message real quick. Okay, just double checking to make sure that I don't like this. Getting a little there it is. These damn cameras these days. Don writes, good Wednesday morning. Glad you think that's way back in the day. There. Tabitha writes, good morning. Let's chop it up. Oh, you know me, we hit the ground running. Talking about Barry Bonds, black voters, smart dumb cats. This is what I'm telling black voters because some of these people out here in what's called, new black media are selling you that doom and gloom and the sky is falling and everybody's lying to you and they playing black voters and blah, 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 blah. And historically, we know there might be elements of truth in all of that, but don't get too discouraged when it comes to acting on a local level. You know what I'm saying? At the national level, if you're holding your breath, waiting for reparations, then you're not paying attention to what's happening. If you're holding your breath, waiting for the George Floyd Policing Act, then you're not watching what's going on. If you're holding your breath, waiting for protections to voting rights or a change to the filibuster, then you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention to what's really going on here. And like I said, the Biden administration, and I got my critiques of them, they can have the best intentions in the world. All that stuff that Biden talked about was just like all the stuff Obama talked about. I believe that Obama, when he was talking about what he wants to do and the policies, I believe he meant every word of it. That's what you want to do. Now, once you get elected and you're dealing with the realities of the Congress and the U.S. Senate, then you got to deal with what you can actually do. Those are two different things. Those are two different things completely. Completely. You know what I'm saying? And all I'll say is that when Trump was in office, man, listen, he was more worried about, his own public image, very narcissistic. He took credit for everything. It was all about him. He's the greatest ever. Giving tax breaks to wealthy people and trying to attack Roe v. Wade and putting a lot of white male conservative judges, in some cases they weren't even qualified, but they were loyal ideologically in federal office. In federal office. That's what he was concerned about. There was no conversation about anything about black people until 2 months before the election, when these mofos jumped up with the platinum plan. 2 months before the election, now you want to talk to Ice Cube. You've been in office for 4 years, but now you want to talk to Ice Cube 2 months before the election. And what blew my mind is that some black people fell for it. Oh, they talking to Ice Cube. Oh, Lordy, that's more than what the Democrats did. Are you losing your mind? Can you not? Are you not paying attention? It just amazes me that there's an appetite for the dumb-ish. There's a huge appetite for the dumb-ish, right? Among black voters and black media consumers. I'm just being real with you. And it's amazing to me. I'm like, really? This is what you want to hear? You want to hear this over and over again? Oh, they lied to us. Oh, we told you so. Oh, Lordy. Look at what they did for the Asians. Do you even know what you're talking about? Facts don't matter anymore. It's all about feelings. It's all about feelings. But let's go to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Ivey. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. As if on cue.
Yes. You might not want to read what I just posted in the on the YouTube chat because obviously it's a misguided statement because you're listening to my voice right now. But Mr. Ivey, I would just like to say that I agree with everything you just said, and what I think the Democrat strategy right now is to lessen the definite number of seats that they're going to lose in the House of Representatives. The way it's projected right now, they're looking at about 30 seats. So they want to keep that number lower than that, but their main focus, Mr. Ivey, is to not lose the majority or the split in the United States Senate, because currently, right now, there are 48 Democrats and then the 2 independents that caucus with the Democrats, plus the 50 Republicans. And most of those 50 Republicans currently, right now, their seats are safe. But it's John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. Those are the 2 seats that the Democrats fear the most. Because if you look at the early polling in Georgia, it's a neck and neck tie with Raphael Warnock. And again, all I'm saying is, Mr. Ivey, the Democrats' goal right now, because they already know they're going to lose some seats in the House of Representatives, but they want to keep that number under 30 because at this point, there are 26 Democrat House members that have announced either they're going to retire or they will not seek re-election. And the last thing, the Democrats have not figured out the message that they're going to use moving forward, because the first primaries are coming up in April in Florida, and then the biggie is in Georgia coming up in May. So the message is what the Democrats are struggling with right now, and the message that you just gave before you took my call, Mr. Ivey, that is the message that they fear the most, the message that's coming from new Black media. And before I go, I would like to give a shout out to my new friend, Glenn from Mason. He is no longer my arch enemy. We are going to start something together on Twitter Spaces. We did it yesterday, because if you look at Glenn's last post, it says, he says, surprise Drippy showed. I thought he would still be recovering from the ass whooping he received on Twitter Spaces. I love it, Mr. Ivey. Me and Glenn, we working on something, and I hope as we move forward, we get our little Black crossfire thing working. Thanks for taking my call, Mr. Ivey, and disregard the statement that I put in the YouTube chat. Keep doing your thing, Mr. Ivey. Shout out to the Nathan Ivey Show. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So get started and finish strong. Peace out.
Appreciate the call. I mean, that's great for you, man. I mean, you're only 2 years late. I suggest you guys do that 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we said, let's do this. But I get it. I think I understand what's going on. Wish you the best with that. Motherfuckers be late. Okay. Let me see here. I just sent a message to Captain Danita Pettis. And real quick, there was a big meeting at City Council. They were talking about the shootings, and they offered something I thought was quite interesting. This was offered by the police, and there's a big conversation about the shootings in the city. Crime is down, but gun violence is up. And I thought this was very interesting, right? So this was put together ostensibly by the Cincinnati Police Department to explain where the homicides stem from. And look at the top there. Police say most homicides stem from an inability to resolve arguments. An inability to resolve arguments. And don't that make sense? Don't that make sense? Conflict resolution. You know, we as human beings are taught to deal with some problems with violence. That's what we do. Got an issue with a mofo? He gots to go, right? But look at this. This is a breakdown of, this is some police work here. This is a breakdown, again, ostensibly, of what the police are saying are behind some of the shootings, right? Domestic, at the very top there, 29 pre-planned, target specific, retaliation, running dispute, sunning dispute, unattended victim, drug related, robbery, killed in self-defense. But overall, police say that most homicides stem from an inability to resolve arguments. Doesn't that ring true to you? I say we can barely agree on whether the earth is round or flat, let alone deal with conflict resolution. That's just not something that we as humans do well. You know what I'm saying? You got people getting shot in road rage incidences. You know what I'm saying? It's a car. It's a car. People all in their feelings because your car got dented. Now you want to shoot somebody. People arguing over women. Arguing over trivial things. Conflict resolution. That's just who we are. You know, that, and I'm so glad they put that there, because I've always felt that was a root cause of it. You know, you hear people saying things like, this is senseless. It's not senseless. It's the lack of being able to resolve an issue without grabbing a gun or being violent. You know, in our society, I don't know where we get this. Maybe we're taught this. Maybe it's the media. You tell me. But, you know, we got it in our head, in our soul, that when we have certain issues, I got to get violent. That's the only way I can deal with it. I got to take it to that next level now. You know, you can be arguing over something small. You know, wait a minute. I wanted pepperoni on my pizza at Chuck E. Cheese and all this kind of garbage. Somebody jump in line in front of you. People want to argue. They say, they want to pull a gun. So that's what the Cincinnati police is saying, is that most homicides stem from an inability to resolve arguments. And that is so, it just feels so true per my observations of the world. It just feels so true. It does. What about you? Now, what is city council supposed to do about this? What is the police department supposed to do about this? They can't do nothing about this. What is how are the police supposed to stop people from taking arguments to the next level? What legislation could city council possibly come up with that's going to stop that? Nothing. You could try this or that. I mean, trying to get creative in California, where they want you to, if you're a gun owner, you got to have a license now, limited liability, I'm not licensed, but insurance and things like that. Okay, maybe that might help. But we can't agree on things. We can't even agree on masks. We can't agree on basic shit. Nobody wants to hear their brother or sister out. Nobody wants to, be the bigger man, so to speak, or woman. Nobody wants to take a loss. Everybody's got their chest out, ready to kill, ready to die for the most trivial things. You know what I'm saying? I got into I've only had one fender bender in my entire adult driving life. I didn't even get out the car. For what? I was in Kentucky. I know what the laws in Kentucky are as it relates to automobile accidents. The dude, it was a white dude. He got out the car. He was knocking on the window. I didn't even look at him. I just called the police and then called the insurance company. What was he going to talk about? He all in his feelings. I ain't even pay attention to it. Get out the car and say what? For what? I'm trying to get my car fixed. You need to get your car fixed. Us jawing back and forth in Kentucky means absolutely nothing. The police showed up. The police started asking me questions. I ain't even answer the questions. I told your officer already, ask him. He got mad at me. For what? I'm not going to keep on arguing and going back and forth. It is what it is. The insurance companies will sort it out. I ain't got no reason to get all upset about it. It wasn't the best day in the world, but it wasn't the worst. It was a fender bender. As simple as that. Nothing more than that. That's why we pay for insurance every month. I'm not getting all of my feelings over something trivial. I'm not doing it. It's not worth it. But some people, boy, oh my God, you made me late for work. You was already late for work. You're late every day to work. Getting out, cussing, and arguing. I ain't doing none of that over all that small stuff. I ain't got to get out the car. Sit there. I mean, literally, he wasn't like aggressively bamming on the window. He was trying to get my attention. I was like, call the insurance company. What I'm talking to you for? I'm in Kentucky. I know the laws over there. Nothing I'm gonna say to you or you're gonna say to me is gonna change what the insurance company's estimate's gonna be. Let them sort it out. I'm not arguing with you back and forth, but some people do. They want to argue about every little thing. Every little thing. They want to argue about it. And sometimes these arguments rise to the level of violence. Look at that. Police say most homicides stem from an inability to resolve arguments. Are we teaching conflict resolution in our public high school? We need to be teaching that. We need to be teaching that, man. All this talk about CRT, we need conflict resolution, how to be upset, even if you right, and deal with it in a calm manner. Now, that's easy to say and hard to do when you get in that moment. I fully admit that. But look at that. Police say that most homicides stem from an inability to resolve arguments. Oh, my gosh. Good morning, family. Good morning. So listen, Black voters, don't hang your head down. Don't feel as if the world is going to come to an end and nothing can be done because there's gridlock in Washington. Where do you live? Do you live in Ohio? Focus on Columbus. Focus on Cleveland. Focus on Cincinnati. I say Columbus because that's the capital, right? That's where the legislation goes down. You live in Cincinnati, focus on your council, Hamilton County Commissioner, your upcoming, congressional races, state senator races. Focus there. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot that we can do. I don't want people to feel like nothing can be done because of Christian cinema. Bump all that. She all the way in Arizona. I'm in Ohio. Focus on the local. That's where we can move the needle, even if there is gridlock on the national level. So hold on here. We got our guest backstage. We got Captain Demeter Pettis. I can't wait to bring her on. Let me bring her on with no further ado. Captain Pettis, how are you? Good morning.
I'm doing great, Nathan. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for your time this morning.
Oh, no problem. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Oh, man, this is great, man, because you already know, and you've been a topic of conversation on the show.
Your favorite topics.
Absolutely, man. Where's Reynolds today? Where is Reynolds at this morning?
Reynolds actually is still on third shift in District 4, so he's working, but he's not working right now. I've been promoted, so I don't have to do the late night shift anymore.
And congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know you, but over the years, I've just heard, different people say things about you. And then when I hear the same thing coming from different folks, I'm like, it must be true, which is you don't play no games. And you're about your business and you're about the community and doing the right thing. That's what I've heard. And so again, when I heard about your promotion and now you're the president of the Sentinels, I thought, okay, this is good for the city. So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
So so are you the highest ranking female and or Black female officer in the CPD?
Yes, I am. The way our rank structure goes, you have the chief of police, then we have 3 assistant chiefs, and then you have 15 captains. I am the only African-American female captain, which would make me the next highest ranking person after the chief.
Wow, that is an amazing feat. That is huge, especially in like a city like Cincinnati. How long have you been on the force, and what has your experience been like?
I've been a member of the Cincinnati Police Department for 23 years. I just hit 23 years on January the 10th of this year. And prior to going into the police academy, I worked for the police department as a civilian. I was a 911 operator. So I actually started my employment with the city as a 911 operator, working for the police department.
And so what does it take to become a captain? Is there like a test that you take, or you promoted by the chief? Like, how do you become a captain?
Well, you take several tests, actually. When you first come in the police department and you're an officer, then you take the first round of tests, which would promote you to a sergeant. Then you take another test, then you're promoted to a lieutenant. So I've been promoted. This is actually promoted to captain is actually my third promotional test. And you have to test at every rank, which means you're constantly competing against other people in order to get these positions. So in other words, it's not an easy task. You may have, let's say there's 47 lieutenants on the Cincinnati Police Department. At the time that I took the test for captain, you only had 3 openings for captain. So it was basically anywhere from 20 to 30 people competing for 3 positions.
Wow.
So yeah, it's very competitive, it's very challenging, and a lot of preparation goes into a promotional test and preparing for the promotional test.
Wow. Now, are you born and raised in the city of Cincinnati?
I was actually born in Chicago, Illinois, but we moved to Cincinnati. We moved to Cincinnati when I was maybe about 6 or 7. The first elementary school that I attended was Winton Terrace Elementary. So when we moved to Cincinnati, we didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, come from very humble beginnings. So the first place that I actually lived in Cincinnati was Winton Terrace.
Into Terrace. Wow. Okay. Quite interesting. So now you're the president of the Sentinels, right? And
Yes.
What does that mean? What are your plans for the Sentinels? What can we expect?
Well, as you may be aware, the Sentinel organization was founded in the 1960s. It was a group of police officers that, noticed different things that were going on, how policing was done. They figured that a voice needed to come from within the police department to call out bad behavior, to call out, bad policing in African-American communities. So they kind of took it upon themselves to develop this organization and be a watchdog for the communities that they came from. And so, excuse me, the Sentinel organization is founded on the principles of fairness and equity in promotion process and hiring, fairness in promotion in job assignments, different behaviors like how officers are disciplined. There's a large disparity or a large gap in the discipline. African-American officers on the police department are disciplined at a much higher and harsher rate than our counterparts, but we only make up maybe less than 20% of the police department, but we're disciplined at a rate that far supersedes the masses. So that's just one of the issues that we tackle. So, I come to make sure that African-American officers are treated fairly. I come to make sure that the representation and how policing is done in the city of Cincinnati, that we certainly have standards and that we're adhering to those standards, and that, the police department should mirror, the demographics of the police department should mirror the communities that we serve. In other words, if the city of Cincinnati is 40% African-American, your police department shouldn't be 10% African-American, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. What's the current percentage of African-American officers on the Cincinnati police force right now?
African-American females are about 8%. We're roughly 1,000-person department. And of that 1,000, you have less than 8% that are African-American females. And for African-American males, it's maybe, I would say 14%. So together, African-Americans make up maybe right around 20, maybe a little bit more than 20%.
Okay. So that's about 20 or a little bit more less than the overall population. Are there difficulties in recruiting, people of color to be on the Cincinnati police force? And if so, what are those difficulties? What are the challenges? Why don't we see more?
There are difficulties, particularly in this political climate. I mean, if you look at the things that are going on around the country, and right now, policing doesn't have as good a name as it should. I mean, with incidents like George Floyd, where people is left a bad taste in people's mouth, you can imagine Black folks are not feeling being the police right now, because we don't have a good look right now, or certainly there's a lot of room for that look to be improved. That those types of incidents leave a bad taste in people's mouths. So then when you go to African American communities to recruit, you know, people don't want that stigma attached with them. If African American police officers are being lumped in with the other officers that are doing bad things, you can imagine if I'm 21 or 22 and I'm in college and the world is my oyster of all the things I can do because I'm a college educated African American man or woman, why would I want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that we butt up against, that people are really like, you guys do a lot. You have to put up with a lot, you know, you have to deal with a lot. And a lot of people just don't want that smoke. They don't
And
want.
that leads to my next question: is it difficult being a black officer in these days and times? You know, do black people look at you differently? How do, you know, non-black people look at you as an officer?
Well, I think it is difficult to be an African American officer, especially in 2022, because sometimes we can get it from both ends. We can get it from African American people that don't have a favorable impression of the police. We can also get it from, you know, individuals that have their own, you know, stereotypical impressions of black people or African Americans or what have you. So it's kind of like we get it from both ends. Um, and I guess the difficulty in that is that right now, just policing in general, we're struggling to rebuild that bridge with trust from the community. So if people don't feel that, you know, as an African American officer, we have to get the trust of the community to show them, hey, we are fighting for you guys from internally. When we see bad behavior, we will call it out. When we see unfair treatment, it's my responsibility to call it out and say that officer shouldn't have done that. He didn't act appropriately. If you can't trust me to do that, what good is me being a black police officer if I'm just going to lie and, you know, not do the things that I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, down in Florida, and I don't remember exactly what it was, there was an incident of an officer that was about to get, I think, a little bit more aggressive with a suspect, and a female officer tried to pull him back, and he grabbed her by the neck. Did you see that?
I didn't see the video, but I heard about the
You heard
incident.
about it.
And, you know, those are the types of things that people expect as an officer. You swore an oath to, you know, uphold the Constitution and an oath to do your job. You didn't swear an oath to, you know, to be loyal to some code that lacks integrity. So if that officer, the female officer, if she saw her partner or the other officer doing something that was, you know, not within the guidelines or that it was endangering that person, she did what she was supposed to do, which was speak up. I mean, imagine the situation with George Floyd. When those officers saw him kneeling on that man's neck, what would it have done for one of them officers to say, Derek, you got to get up off of him. You can't do that. You can't do that in front of me. That man wouldn't be dead. If it just took one person to speak up and say, we're not doing that. No, we're not going to do that. But when you deal in a culture of, well, I can't say anything, I'm with them, so whatever they do is right. You can't have that perspective because nothing will ever change if you're too scared to speak up.
Yeah. You know, it's just curious. I mean, here you are, an officer, you dedicated your life to this, you're trying to do it the right way. When you see these examples like George Floyd, what do you think? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what do you think? Like when you saw the George Floyd situation or Breonna Taylor, as an officer, that's got to impact all officers. So what do you think about that?
And that's one of the challenges, because one thing that a good police officer hates more than a criminal is another bad police officer, because you're making us all look bad. We're not all bad, but because of what one person did 1,000 miles away, now I got people, you know, looking at me sideways because of what I'm wearing, and they think that I'm just like that person. So, it is challenging and it's frustrating when you have certain officers that really tarnish the badge or give everybody else in the profession a bad name.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see particularly the situation with George Floyd, it really is shameful. It's a travesty. It should never have happened. And the other officers that were there on scene with him, 2 or 3 other officers that were there and saw him kneeling on that man's neck as the life was draining out of him, they had a responsibility to pull him up off of that man, just like the female you were talking about. I think you said it was either Arizona or Texas. That woman did her job
Right.
because she said, I'm not getting indicted because you out of control.
Right.
I'm not going to get charged with felony charges of excessive force because you out of control. And people need to be strong enough to challenge their coworkers and say, we're not doing that. So
Here's a question. Here's a question from Iris Rowley. She wants to know about the public safety high school, and will the Sentinels be taking this up as an issue as a community response to getting more Black people on the force?
I do know that that's a program that the youth services section, particularly Officer Eddie Hawkins, I don't know if you know him or not, but he's been championing that cause for quite some time. The youth services officers work in the Cincinnati public schools, and they try and get young people involved in police work, for example, through the cadet program, being interns with the police departments, because in that age group between when they're 18 years old and when they turn 21, we don't want to lose them. So that would definitely, the program that Iris is speaking of is definitely something that we see value in, and we try and promote those types of programs to get people, young folks, involved before they go out and, make a mistake, or they mess up their record, or they do something that would then bar them from being qualified to be a police officer. So that's a great program.
Earlier, I was talking about the fact that the police chief did a presentation before council this week. And as a part of it, here's a screenshot here. This information was presented. And what it says is that the Cincinnati Police Department believes that most homicides stem from an inability to resolve arguments, which rings so true to me, because it's hard for us to agree on anything these days. It's hard for us to care about the next man, and conflict resolution is something that's not taught. It seems like, people want to solve issues with guns, even if it's something small. How can the police, if that's the number one issue that's causing these shootings, what can the police do about that?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you talk about just an inability of people to come up with creative ways to solve or resolve conflict. There's a lot of training that police officers do, for example, in de-escalation tactics. Like if I arrive on the scene of something, depending on my demeanor or depending on how I set the tone for the encounter, I'm either going to add wood to the fire or I'm going to be a calming agent. Now, police officers get special training on how to de-escalate or de-escalation tactics. In just everyday society, people are kind of left, to their own devices. Like if I have a short temper, or if maybe I was raised in a household where we did less talking and more, laying hands on and fighting our problems, I think that people they don't always know, okay, maybe I can resolve this through diplomacy by talking and trying to reach the person on a more civil level. Sometimes people just, they get in their feelings and they just react. So in terms of what the police can do about that, certainly we can only do as much as when we're called into the situation. Say if there's 2 people that are having a confrontation or argument, once the police gets there, generally we will separate the 2. We would try and talk sensibly to person A and try to talk sensibly to person B, and kind of give them, because the police are social workers, we're mental health specialists. We have to do all of that in a matter of 15 minutes before we get on to our next call. But what we try to do is explain to people, sir, this is a situation, you shouldn't even be in this situation. If it's a conflict over money, you can sue the person. You can try and, we show them other avenues to resolve a conflict other than resorting to physical violence. But if I only have a 15-minute encounter with you, that's probably not going to change. A 15-minute with a police officer is not going to change your whole personality. All I can do is handle it incident to incident, one incident at a time. But in terms of how do we change the society, well, when we figure out the answer to that, Nate, me and you gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah, it just seems like, everything you just said happens when the police arrive. But
Right.
the situation has already happened in some cases where somebody's pulled the trigger or they've already gotten violent. It just seems like that's a human thing. It's like a home thing, right?
Right.
And people grow up with this mentality that I ain't gonna take no loss and you better not do this. And if you cross this line, I'm gonna have to kill you, even if it's something trivial. And I don't know, I'm skeptical as to how much the police can do about that. You're not in our homes. And
Well,
then what city council can do about that.
if you think about it, I mean, a lot of the way that people react and respond in society is as a direct reflection of the social conditions that they live in.
Right.
And the particular challenge for the police is, in order to be able to change people's behavior, you have to be able to have an impact on the social conditions which are causing them to do this behavior. The police, we really don't have, control. We can't control the social circumstances that people find themselves in. If you live in a certain community and that community is plagued with certain issues, the police don't have the ability to move you out of that neighborhood. So you're going to default to, this is how we handle it in this hood. So all we can do is address it once we get there on the scene and try and teach people, okay, if this happens in the future, this is a better way to deal with it. If we dealing with baby mama drama, like a dispute over a custody situation where dad is trying to see his child and mom is refusing to honor the visitation or something like that, we'll deal with the situation in the moment. But we may tell the dad, what you're going to have to do is go back to court. You're going to have to maybe file a contempt of court on her. We try to teach them the legal way that they need to handle it, rather than you just jumping on her and putting your hands on her. No, man, you probably need to do it this way. This is a much more productive and effective way, and it keeps you out of trouble. But we can only deal with that situation once we get called. Like, I wouldn't know, obviously, prior to someone calling the police.
Speaking with Captain Danita Pettis, she's the new president of the Sentinels here in the city of Cincinnati. So people are asking me about Dan Hills, and in your new capacity as the president of the Sentinels, are you going to have to interact with him? What's your relationship like with Dan Hills, and how do you foresee that moving forward?
I definitely have to interact with Dan Hills. I mean, like it or not, he holds the position. He is the president of the police union. He is the FOP president. So there's no two ways around it. I must work with the man. And I think when you get to this level in public service, you have to be able to put your personal feelings aside and do the mission of what you're called to do. He has a job that he's supposed to do, and I have a responsibility and obligations that I'm supposed to do. My purpose is bigger than whatever personal issues he or I may have. So I absolutely will work with Dan Hills. I have worked with him on several projects already. Things that I've had to reach out to him and say, I need you to do this, or can I get some assistance with this? And I can honestly say everything that I've asked him to do, he has accommodated that. I asked him to put on a union training for officers when, let's say, they get into a situation and they have to go to internal. I asked him to put on a training to show Sentinel executive board members, the newly elected executive board members, how do they go and represent an officer, be a union rep for this officer when they have to go to internal investigations. He provided that training. I told him that several of the new Sentinel executive board members, we want to be members of the grievance committee so that when officers go to the union and they complain that they're not being treated fairly, we want to be on that committee where every piece of discipline that is going through the FOP, I'm on that committee now because I asked to be on it and he put me on it. He put 3 or 4 other executive board members from the Sentinel organization on that board. So he, he has done the things that I've asked him to do in terms of getting my presidency off the ground. He is working cooperatively with me in doing those things. Dan and I probably are never going to be drinking buddies, but when it comes to the business of what I need to do, if I need something from him, I'm going to ask. And because I'm an FOP member, my expectation is I pay dues into this organization, into this union. You will assist me in accommodating the things that I need. And thus far, that's been his persona.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear, because as you were speaking, it kind of jogged a memory file. I was like, oh, it's right there. There is some history between the two of you, and it wasn't good at all.
Yeah. And I mean,
And
a long way from those days. I mean, I think that certainly nobody, I would be remiss in saying nobody is one thing. I mean, we're all capable of making good decisions and bad decisions. No person is just one thing. I mean, I think that Dan has matured in his approach to how he deals with things. I've matured in my approach and how I deal with things. I mean, you recall the incident that you play from time to time on your show.
right.
And I can honestly say, if I had it to go back and do over again, being the person in authority and being the manager, I probably should have handled that situation different.
Right.
I can admit that and I can grow from that. There were certainly extenuating circumstances, but at the end of the day, you are the professional and the task is on you to make the right decisions because you're the manager. So I get it. If I had it to go back and do over again, there's some things I would have done differently, but I just think that people grow. Nobody is one thing.
Yeah, that was so much fun. That was hilarious. Oh man, you aired sis out in front of everybody. I don't know if you want to talk about what set you off that day. I mean, since you're saying now in hindsight, but that day, what set you off?
Well, it was a situation where it was a history between myself and that particular officer. I had actually filed an EEO complaint against her. And basically, it was a situation where I believed that she was trying to retaliate and to get me back for filing an EEO complaint on her. So she came to the roll call and basically tried to create a situation where the officers were questioning my leadership, and I wasn't going to let you get that off.
Right.
That just wasn't going to happen like that.
And you knew she was recording that day?
Oh, I knew she was recording it. Yeah. I mean, as you recall in the excerpt that you play, I told her to go turn the volume up. So make sure you get all of it.
Right.
As I said, I mean, in hindsight being 2020, she kind of had it coming. But in a professional arena, you got to learn to handle things differently. So
for sure.
From that situation, probably I should have called her aside, and had another person be present while I told her that was inappropriate what you did. But I mean, I had to say that was just the Avondale in me.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes people get what they get. Sometimes you got to give it to them right there on the spot.
Yeah, but when you own up to it and you admit, okay, yeah, I probably could have handled that better. I could have done a little better on that. And I'm the first to admit I could have done a little better on that.
Yeah, that's somebody said that's very admirable of you. That sounds very mature. That's right. Wouldn't have been as much fun, but it sounds about right.
But it feel good in the moment.
Oh yeah, I know. We could tell. We could tell. She got what she deserved. How many captains are there currently on the police force? You might have said it earlier, but I think I missed it.
There's 15 captains on the police department.
Wow.
Myself, I'm the only African American female. A African American male, Captain Norris, was just recently promoted. So there's 2 African Americans. The other 13 are all Caucasian.
Okay. And what about the efforts to bring more women and more Black women on the force? Is there something about Black females? Are there certain challenges to recruiting Black females on the force?
Well, it's challenging to recruit women just in general because, I mean, policing historically has been a male dominated profession. So you have a challenge of getting not just Black women, but women in general, because most women, it's a job most women probably either aren't motivated to do or it's something else in life that they would rather do instead. Because, I mean, it's a dangerous profession. You are signing up to risk your life. You are signing up to be in a profession where women are certainly the minority. Most women certainly don't reach the level that I've reached. Most women don't retire captains or, assistant chiefs or lieutenants. Most men on the police department, even though it's a male dominated profession, don't get to the level where I am. So, yes, it is hard to recruit women because the particular profession doesn't lend itself to being particularly attractive to a female.
Hmm. Right.
But you have a certain type of female, that personality wise can do the job. Everybody can't do police work because everybody don't have the stomach for it. Everybody, people, if you're more a B type personality, you're not assertive, you're not willing to step up and be in control, everybody don't feel comfortable in that role. Everybody is not called to lead.
Right.
Uh, some people are just as comfortable saying, if you want to do that, I respect your right, your ability to do that, but that's not the route I want to go. It's just like, everybody is not called to be Martin Luther King. Everybody is not called to be Malcolm X. Everybody don't have a stomach for that. And to be a police officer, you really have to be willing to sacrifice, up to and including your life for what you say you believe in or whatever the cause is that you're investing in. Everybody is not that committed. Some people just want to go through life, work their job, work a little overtime, pay my bills, watch my cable, and I'm good. I'm not trying to, be the Statue of Liberty. Some people are comfortable with that. So if you can think about it, it's a job most men don't want to do.
Right. Right.
Alone find a plethora of women that want to do it. The average man don't want to risk their life. They want to know, I got a wife, I got a family, I got some children. I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize me, may not come back home to these people. A lot of men don't want to do that job.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
it is a challenge.
Are you a part of any national networks of like police professionals of women or Black women on your level? Because as you were talking about it, I thought, I wonder how many Black female captains are there across the nation?
Not a lot. As I said, on the police department, on the Cincinnati Police Department, only 8, maybe 7 or 8% of the Black females. That's a very small percentage. So, and that's pretty much mirrors other police agencies across the country. So you don't have that many Black women in the profession to begin with. And then the number that our command staff rank is even much smaller. That's probably like maybe 2, 3, 4%, something like that. Um, I'm a member of what we call NOBLE, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. It's not a women's group. It's just an African American, minority officers national association. But I'm not a member of any organizations that are particular to Black females in law enforcement. No. And
Okay.
then I'm also a member of course, the NAACP. But that's just a national organization, again, not focused on Black females. But I think it's a civic responsibility, as a police officer, particularly as an African American officer, there's no reason you shouldn't be a member of NOBLE. There's no reason you shouldn't be a member of the NAACP. That's just my personal opinion. That you have to give back to these communities and different civil rights organizations Black people throughout history have always been on the bottom. So I think that particularly when you have African American officers, to whom much is given, much is required. If you're in a position to see what goes on and you have a seat at the table and you have a platform, or I should say, if I have a platform, I have a seat at the table. I'm at the big table when all the important policy decisions are being made. I have a responsibility to say something important, not nonsense. You are in a position to affect the lives of a lot of people that look like me. When you look at me, you see a Black woman. How do I not care about that? You can't. Not if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and using the platform that I believe God gave me. He didn't give you that for you. He gave you that to be a blessing to other people.
Absolutely. Got a question from Jared. He wants to know any updates on actions District 2 has taken to improve safety and response in Evanston?
Some of the things that we're doing throughout the entire summer, there was an initiative where we were increasing the number of patrol officers on the street. We brought in what we call our civil disturbance response team. And that's just basically putting additional supplemental patrols on the streets. I'm sure you've probably noticed from the news headlines that certainly a lot of the violence that we were seeing over the summer, a lot of that has kind of died down going into the colder winter months. So a lot of the numbers have gone down, but we are still very aggressively patrolling those areas. The officers that work in those areas are very familiar with the people in that community. So we are continuing to maintain a police presence, a heavy police presence in that area. But a lot of the violence that we saw over the summer, I'm sure you just know just from watching the news, it's kind of died down a little bit. Well, quite a bit, actually.
Here's a question from TNT. She wants to know, how has the force dealt with COVID? And how do Black officers deal with their mental health, dealing with internal strife with majority officers and a community that may see them as a traitor? It's a
Well,
two-part question.
okay, in terms of COVID, just like everywhere else, it's been a challenge. The police department is struggling to keep our staffing levels up. COVID is hitting the police department, the fire department, and I'm sure other, city departments. And so we're just struggling to keep our head above water, just like every other business, and trying to accommodate. Like, we're in a period now where we are doing mandatory overtime. If we don't have enough officers that are scheduled to work because people are on their off days, somebody's on vacation, somebody's out sick, we are actually requiring officers to work overtime. And you might have thought you would never hear that, but that's the only way that we can continue to maintain staffing levels. We have to now force people to work more than 40 hours a week so that the city is safe. And then the second part of the question, can you repeat that part about?
Yeah, the question is, how do Black officers deal with their mental health, dealing with internal strife with majority officers and a community that may see them as traitors?
I can tell you that is difficult. It's always, a challenge when I feel like I'm a good officer. I'll be the first one to call out bad behavior. If I saw an officer doing something that, was just like flat out wrong, you hit somebody in handcuffs, you did something that was just straight dirty, I would be the first one to go and call and report you and tell, because that's what, my sense of integrity is for myself. I'm just not going to allow it to happen. You can't do it in front of me. And that's just who I am, how I roll. So it is hurtful when the good officers that will speak up, that will do the right thing, that will report, when we get lumped in with officers that are not doing the right thing, you just painted us all with the same brush. And that's hurtful to the ones that are out here trying to do the right thing, because now I'm getting lumped in with people that are out here violating people's rights or that are using excessive force, because I'm not that type of officer, but I'm being blamed like I was. So it is stressful to be painted with a certain type of brush, and that to not be the person that you are. that's a little difficult.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
We lost your audio. We lost your audio, Captain Pettis. We can't hear you. Yeah, still can't hear her. Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Captain Pettis. Not sure. I think now
did,
there we go.
did we lose sound?
We lost sound for about, I don't know, a minute there.
Let me try and.
We can hear you good now. We hear you good now.
Hold on.
Oh, she just jumped off. Yeah, for a second here, I couldn't hear her. And if I couldn't hear her, you probably couldn't hear her. So maybe she'll give us a call back. A fascinating conversation. Just got maybe one or two more questions, and I'll try to get in. Yeah, we did lose her audio for a
Okay,
second.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I don't know what happened. I guess we lost sound or something.
You know, it's the internet. This is not a perfect science. It just happened again. I think she might be on the cell phone. It's all good. No issue. I've done this so many times. This happens sometimes, everybody. So just you bear with it. You know, this is not a perfect science, and you know sometimes we using cell phones and different things, we lose audio, but it's all good.
Are we still live, or can you hear me?
We're still good. Yeah, we're still live.
Somebody was trying to call on my cell phone, and
okay.
It messed up the sound, so I apologize for that.
It's all good. It's all good. So you were finishing your conversation talking about the difficulties of like the community kind of looking at Black officers a certain way, and then we lost the audio.
Yeah, I was just basically saying anytime that people that are out here trying to do the right thing get lumped into a certain category, and I hear people do it all the time to African American men. A good dad should be offended when somebody says Black men don't take care of their children, because hey, I'm one of the dads that does do all the things I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So same thing for, hey, I'm one of the good Black police officers. I do speak up when I see bad behavior, but I'm getting lumped in with the bad people. So that's hard to deal with, because that's not your goal or that's not your intention, but you're being painted with that reputation. So that's always challenging. But I mean, you have to have a thicker skin than that. You have to really just try and educate people, and you can't take it personal.
Right.
Because they're just going off of what they see and maybe different experiences that they've had. So the only way I can counteract that is I have to show them, no, we're not all like that. That some of us will do the right thing, or a lot of us will do the right thing. I do think that the vast majority of police officers do a good job and do strive to do the best that they can do. But in any profession, doctors, lawyers, even judges, you always have a couple of people that, for whatever reason, are not living up to the responsibilities that they're supposed to be doing.
Just maybe one more question for you. I know you're very, very busy.
Mm-hmm.
So one of 15 captains, what's day to day for you like? Does every captain have like a certain sort of area that you're over? Are you ever out on the streets anymore, on call? Like, what's the day to day for you as a captain now?
Well, my day generally starts at about 8 o'clock in the morning. I come in, I have certain paperwork and things that I have to do. I am in charge of 14 out of Cincinnati's 52 neighborhoods. All of my neighborhoods are on the east side of town: Evanston, Kennedy Heights, Pleasant Ridge, Hyde Park, Oakley, Madisonville, just to name a few. So all of my area of responsibility is towards the eastern part of the city. So, and whenever there's any type of, homicides or violent crime, bank robberies, you name it, that kind of falls in my bailiwick, and therefore it makes me responsible. So I have to look at my crime stats every day. If there's an uptick in car break-ins in a particular neighborhood, if there's an uptick in street robberies, I'm expected to react to that. And whether that be deploying resources, to that neighborhood or to that particular area to quell whatever that particular problem is, that's kind of what my day to day looks like. I need to be up as any district captain. I need to be up on the statistics, and I need to know everything that's going on in those 14 neighborhoods.
So that sounds like a 24-hour. That sounds like a 24/7 job. So are you constantly in connection and communication with your staff, and they're updating you on a regular basis?
Yes.
Do you get a chance to sleep really, or?
I do get a chance to sleep, but I can tell you that basically being a district captain is almost like being a mini police chief, because the same types of issues that you deal with as a district captain are the same issues that you deal with as a police chief. I deal with personnel issues. I deal with lack of resources. Oh, I don't have enough police cars for this or for that. I don't have enough officers. I mean, the same challenges that you would have as a police chief are the same challenges that I have on a day-to-day basis. And it's just a matter of juggling all of those balls in the air. And the goal is to not let one of them hit the ground. So if, let's say, a police car gets wrecked, I need to figure out, okay, how am I going to replace that car to put another car out on the street? Those are the challenges that I would face on a day-to-day basis. If 4 of my officers are down with COVID, and now we're kind of short on manpower on the street, I got to figure out, okay, so what can I do? Okay, now I got to cancel some officers' off days. You thought you were going to be off this weekend, but because 4 officers are out with COVID, now your off days get canceled, and I got to make you come to work, or I got to force you to work overtime. So, it's a lot of decision making. Sometimes it's not always popular, because when you thought you were going to be off and the captain is telling you you got to come to work because these people are off, it's not always popular. But that's that's the price of doing business. My phone rings a lot when I'm on my off time, because just because I'm off, the district is still running. The district is going 24 hours a day. So the captain is off, but there's an issue now. She needs to handle it. Sometimes I have to get up out of my bed in the middle of the night and come to work. Sometimes I could be out to dinner with my family and I got to say, I got to go over here and handle this call. That's just, the level of commitment that you have to be willing to have. If you don't want to be infringed on your personal time, this probably is not a good role for that person.
Just 2 more questions, and I will let you go. I know you're very busy. So one question just came up from a member of the audience. Somebody wants to know, speaking of the chief, they want to know if you plan to put your name in the hat. We do know that the chief is going to be retiring soon.
I mean, it really kind of depends. Like, I'm still kind of going back and forth, because I think that's one of those positions where on one hand, I lean towards, well, you kind of want to be asked. You want the people at the top to kind of, indicate that they have an interest in doing that. You don't want to seem like you being aggressive or pushing something that the city administration really, we was trying to go a different direction. But then the more ambitious part of my personality is, thinking, no, I'm going to go for it. Why not? What do I have to lose? So it's really, I have to be prayerful about it. First and foremost, I always get on my knees and ask God, what direction is it that you want me to go in? What is the plan that you have for me? So I haven't 100% made up my mind. I can tell you that I'm leaning in that direction, leaning towards it. But I haven't made the final decision. I mean, I would certainly have to talk with, have some additional conversations with my family, because when you are the police chief, you putting yourself out there. I mean, every aspect of your life is fair game. And, you really have to make a determination. Do I want to be under that level of scrutiny 24 hours a day? Or do I just want to continue, to be a district captain where you still have some semblance of, privacy. But when you the police chief, you the bombada. All hands are pointing at you. Everything that goes wrong is on you. So it's a decision that you have to make, and it's not one you can make lightly. But I can tell you, I'm leaning in that direction. I mean, why not? Why not?
I like the way that sounds. I can see it. You got
Mm-hmm.
my support already. You already know. And then last question. So I'd be remiss in my dudes that I didn't ask you about the gun violence, and we kind of talked about it earlier. But what is the Cincinnati Police Department currently doing to deal with that? And also, people really want to focus on. I hear this all the time. Where are the guns coming from? Like, is the police department working on that angle as well?
So I was actually at the Law and Public Safety Committee meeting yesterday, in which Chief Isaac and one of the assistant chiefs, Colonel John, gave a presentation to the council, and they talked about just violent crime and gun crime, nationally. Nationally, violent crime is up across the country. However, and I told this to Lincoln Ware yesterday when I was on his show, that in the city of Cincinnati, crime is at a 10-year low. That might be hard to believe because everything you see on the media and on the news, you would think, everything is going to hell in a handbasket. But statistically speaking, crime in the city of Cincinnati is actually the lowest that it's been. Property crimes, Part 1 crimes, and even violent crime overall is down from what it's been in the last 10 years. The second part of your question, what is the Cincinnati police doing in terms of gun violence? You may or may not be aware, we just recently put together a brand new unit. It's called the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, in which their sole focus is to track, investigate gun crimes and gun violence. It's like a information center where it's a partnership with federal partners, with different courts, federal courts. So we're following when we get individuals that are not legally allowed to possess a firearm, and we get those individuals. We don't just stop with, okay, I'm going to arrest the person and that's it. No, it's a more holistic approach to, now we get with our federal prosecutors, and we really heavily hit these people and try and go the whole criminal justice gamut and pulling levers and doing everything that we can do legally to make sure that these people, never are able to legally own another gun, and that, if they were involved in a crime, that they're prosecuted to the fullest extent. In terms of specifically what the Cincinnati police are doing in terms of just boots on the ground, obviously we're doing things like just trying to put as many officers in the areas where we're seeing high incidences of gun crime. We're trying to put additional resources in those areas, whether it be undercover, whether it be, in terms of more increased patrols. We're just, in a lot of the things I wouldn't be at liberty to say, because obviously you don't want the people that are doing the violence.
We just lost you. Can't hear you. Oh, we just lost her. Hopefully she'll come back and finish that question, and we'll finish the interview.
Again, it was another call coming in on my phone. So for some reason, it kicks the sound off whenever someone's trying to call on my cell phone. So again, I really apologize about
All good. All good. We've been through this a lot. So
that.
it's
Okay.
par for
Well,
the course.
I'm glad I'm not being the only one messing up here.
It's all good. Well, Captain
But
Pettis,
back
I'm sorry.
to the explanation. Like I said, we are actually trying to put additional officers in those areas. We're doing a number of crime control investigations, some of which I'm really not at liberty to talk about, just because we don't, want people to know everything that we're doing. But I can tell you that there are a lot of initiatives that are underway. And the officers are actually out there trying to patrol and developing sources of information. What we call, people that work with the police. Just a number of strategies that we're doing. And I really don't want to get too deep into
I
it.
totally understand. Well, Captain Pettis, again, congratulations. Wish you all the best. We'll be watching. Let's stay in contact. If something's going on and you think that maybe getting out in the media on our platform might help, we're always here. And have a great day. Thank you for your time.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me on, Nathan, and you have a great day as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
That's Captain Danita Pettis right there. Ooh, what? I like what I heard. We need what somebody said, black woman magic. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Like I said, I don't know her, but I've heard through the grapevine from multiple different sources. And when I start to hear the same thing from multiple sources, I take it as it must be true. And I've heard nothing negative about her. I've heard only positive things, even from officers who've told me. I've asked her name has come up. I hear the same thing, about her business, tough, good people. So I thought that I just felt like she had good energy. I love seeing those captain bars on the black female. I got to be honest with you, I'm biased. It is me. Could she be the next chief? I mean, why not? Somebody got to be the next chief. She certainly could be the next chief. Why not? And again, I don't know her like that, but I've heard from a lot of really people whose opinion that I trust have told me this over the years about her. And I'm like, oh, okay, word. Ran into her a couple times. She's seemed very nice. But you could tell she's got like an aura about her. And we need more black women in leadership. We need more females. We need more good people in general, black, white, or whatever, to be on the police force. As I've said before, I totally understand why the community would have a biased opinion about the police force based upon the history. That's something for the police force to deal with. But I think that 100% we need good people, conscious, strong, salt of the earth people that go into law enforcement for the right thing, no matter what their background is, to serve our community. I think it's a very admirable job. It's a critical job. And in particular, if we're going to talk about, black and brown, we need black and brown folks to go into those jobs and help to be a positive change agent from within the police force. All the protests in the world and all that kind of stuff is only going to change the needle so much. We need people to be on the police force that are the right kind of people with the right kind of attitude, that are community oriented. They're not doing it because they got beat up in high school and they want to live out some fantasies and now I'm the bully and all this kind of stuff. We need good people, level-headed people, intelligent people, salt of the earth kind of people to be on law enforcement in the city of Cincinnati. So that's why you've heard it. I've worked with them before in trying to get the word out in terms of their recruitment efforts, in partnership, with my friends over at the Voice of Black Cincinnati as well, because I believe it. I 100% believe that. But I also understand people's stigmas and their issues they may have about the police. I totally get it. You're not wrong to feel that way. You are not wrong to feel that way. I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you in part by our friends over at Renew Community Church. They do a Sunday morning masterclass at 11:45 a.m. All right. You can tap in on Facebook at facebook.com/Cincy Renew. You can also tap in on YouTube at Renew Community Church live stream. This Sunday's topic: stop opposing people, places, and things. Learn how to feel good, have fun, be happy, and enjoy life without opposing others. That sounds good to me. I'm with that. You can also go to their website, 3Ws.renewcommunitychurch.org. You can download a free ebook and perhaps sign up for free coaching as well. Perhaps you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual coach, or maybe you're looking for a business coach. Then they got you covered. And you can download the free ebook for free at their website, again, renewcommunitychurch.org. So you can tap in for the Sunday morning masterclass. I thought it was a great conversation. I'm an energy person. I can just pick up on people's energies and the way they respond. And I think the police force is better now that she's a captain, quite honestly. That's just my personal opinion. And she talks about, why not? I mean, man, I could see that happening. I could see that happening. Black female police chief. I can certainly see that happening. Why not? Why not? Why not? I've never heard anybody say that she's not capable. But she's right, though. You the chief of police, that's a highly politicized position. Everybody gunning for you. You the center of attention then, and that's a big step. But to my ambitious people out there, go hard or go home. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't shooting for the top, then what you shooting for? So why not? But again, that's my general impression. She said she was on with Lincoln yesterday. That's great. I love to hear it. And as many conversations as we can have that impact our community, that's absolutely great. So you can mix that conversation with this conversation. Perhaps some of you folks heard some of them. I didn't even realize it. That's a great thing for our community. Angela writes, I've met her at my job, and other officers would come to my job and eat at our cafeteria in our building. She is nice and down to earth. Pat writes, great show. Charlie Wimber is in the house. He writes, Captain Pettis, a great person, more than qualified for chief. Great show and interview today. Absolutely. Drop writes, Racker. Lemmy writes, she's the truth, strong. Yeah, you could tell that there's a strength. I've heard that about her. So I loved it. I loves it. 100%. Let me see. CPD is an active local leader in the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, NIBIN. Okay. Yeah, I've heard great things about the Cincinnati Police Department. Like, the Cincinnati Police Department is like up here in terms of law enforcement agencies around the country. That's what I've been told. Now, I don't have enough. I don't know how I would even know that, but that's what I've been told from different sources. So I want to say this again before we leave, man. I want to leave you on an uptick. Cincinnati, and I've been saying this way before the Bengals. I've been telling you this since last year, and Cincinnati's on the come up. Cincinnati's on the come up. We're arcing and trajectory is going up. You know what I'm saying? This city has a lot of great things to offer. There's a lot of good people in this city across the board that are working in their own different spaces to lift up this city in so many good ways. And just because of this thing I do in the media, I can see it. I get a chance to talk with people. And this city's on the come up for Black people. And I know Black people don't want to hear that, but that's just my opinion. I can see the future. I can see it. And in 10, 15, 20 years, this city will be a mecca. I'm telling you, I can see it already. It has nothing to do with the Bengals. That's just something that happened this year. You never know what's going to happen next year. Although the success of the Bengals is going to elevate the national attention, right? It's going to give us more national attention, which means more dollars for tourism. It could be that people start thinking like, well, maybe we should look at Cincinnati as the HQ, as our headquarters for our businesses. I'm telling you, Cincinnati is on the come up, and smart people are going to figure out a way to be a part of that. Dumb people sitting around bellyaching, complaining about what happened and what went wrong and what we don't have. I mean, we gotta do more than one thing at one time. We gotta address the issues, but I'm very optimistic about what we could be in the city of Cincinnati. This means like a lot of good people working with intentionality in a similar fashion. But it could definitely happen, man. So we have a lot to be proud of in this city, a lot to be proud of. And I'll leave you with that. Have an excellent rest of your day, family. I really appreciate you. Remember our motto, right? Let's say it together. Winners focus on winning, and losers focus on winners. So stay focused and stay winning. And we'll talk tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8 a.m. All right. We'll chop it up on people, politics, and pleasure. Have an excellent rest of your day. Before we roll out, I got to say what's up to Fox. Good morning, Fox. Good morning, Sharp. What's up, Ray? Good morning, everybody. What's up, Pamela? Appreciate you. And all my folks on Tune In as well. I see you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. This show has legs. Please share this interview so people can see Captain Pettis and hear the interview. I thought it was very interesting. And please share it as much as you can on your page, perhaps, if you deem it worthy, or maybe on Facebook groups as much as possible, right? And then let people know about the interview with Captain Pettis. Have an excellent rest of your day, family. I'm Nate Ivey, and I'm out.
Yeah. Talking to my mirror like I love you so much. Curving on my critics like I heard you, so what? You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a that's what they don't understand.
Back again like flu season. I broke records while loose leafing. I'm coming down my roof, leaving. Don't give a I don't care. Did the by my lonesome. No wonder now I'm on one. No shortcuts on that long run. All I really want is my share. Get on my God, on my totem is nothing. In the discussion, for them feelings I throw on my pain on percussion. The disgusting. I hear I'm bragging about.